phone yet. It's still saying we'll start in 10 minutes with yours. Is it showing on your pad?
Well, I do see the streams. Okay, it looks like we're going to start shortly. I do see us on. Wow!
Okay.
We're live. That's amazing. That's amazing. All right, we'll give it a couple more minutes.
Oh, yes, and I just got a notification that you're live as well.
Yes. All right, so we are definitely, this experiment so far of trying something new and figuring it out sometimes as you go is fully underway. And it really just goes to show that sometimes you can't wait for everything to be perfect and for you to have perfect knowledge of something to push forward. Is something that I teach in my personal growth course, but sometimes you just have to go. So Dr. Aldridge, thank you for being my partner in crime. Thank you for being my partner in crime. Yes. Absolutely.
Right, there we go.
Lovely, lovely. So I can't wait for us to have our conversation. I've been wanting to have this conversation for a while, to tap into the different aspects of all that is Dr. Aldridge, whom I know as Nardia, to tap into the veteran piece, to tap into the professor piece, and to just, to tap into just the love too that I see that you have for students. So once again, thank you for taking this journey with me. We've been on this for a while. Just trying to work and troubleshoot stuff.
Yes, for sure, for sure. But it's definitely, I'm happy to be here, even though, as you know, I don't like talking about myself, but for you and for the people, I will, of course. It's an opportunity to, representation matters. And I think it's important for people to know that there are people that look like them that are out there doing things. So I think that's good.
Yes. I agree with that. And you and I were in a meeting earlier and someone was saying how much they loved your backdrop. That it was absolutely fabulous.
Thank you. I have to give Tamara Smart thanks for this. One of our colleagues from Toastmasters, because I saw her with it and I was like, oh my God, that is beautiful. Fell in love with it and had it. And it's a good representation of not only Black History Month, but also Women's History Month. So I think it's definitely perfect for this occasion. I will tell you, Deborah, one of my students asked me if that was my living room. I said, I wish.
I love that floor.
If only I wish. So online, we also have Sonica and Calvin with us, who are with us physically on Zoom, just so this way we'll know we'll have some participants on Zoom as well as seeing us on YouTube. So I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I love these beautiful pictures and that beautiful floor, and it really does look quite realistic. But yeah, it's March 20th. We are still in the full swing when it comes on to Women's History Month. And when we get to 2 p.m., I'll talk a little bit more, but it's been such a privilege so far for Hashtag DebTalk to just celebrate everyday women. We celebrate women's history, and we're typically talking about folks in the past and so on, but I wanted to take the opportunity to celebrate some everyday folks who are having a positive impact. We started off talking about the first woman that I know, which is my mama, Navarlene Hunter, as being the first woman that I ever met and who's had the biggest impact on me. And then we also celebrated Sonia Tomlinson, who was a new graduate, a nursing student, and who started a business. And she also, I was really happy about her being a part of a personal growth course that I taught. So it was a pleasure celebrating her. And then I celebrated my 82-year-old friend. Her name is Selma Warner. And this now is the opportunity to spend a little bit of time in a different format, doing something different, something new, in celebrating Dr. Nardia Aldridge. So we're doing a live YouTube call, which she had never done before. What has this journey been like for you so far, as we've done research, sat down till hours of the night watching YouTube videos, trying to figure this thing out?
It has been quite a journey. And I think, well, there's no other person that I would be spending all this time with. So you are definitely privileged to have that. But I think it's great, you mentioned something new, innovative and things. And I think, of course, with it being Women's History Month, why not? Why aren't we doing something innovative and new? So I think it just goes along with our theme of that. And now we can say, yes, we were able to do this. And now we know how to.
Well, I wouldn't say I know how to. It's a start.
You know how. You have the basics down now.
My word.
Instead of 6 hours, it may take you 60 minutes. How about that?
Goodness gracious, for sure. And just so you know, just like Nardia said earlier, we have a couple of friends who will be joining us in our little Zoom room, and we'll hear more from them towards the end. But I am grateful for those folks, or a couple of them who will log on, so we can maybe have a bit of a conversation. But yes, it really lets me walk through what I teach. That, John Maxwell talks about the fact that all of us have what are called barriers or growth gap traps. And one of mine sometimes tends to be just wanting to have all my ducks in a row. And sometimes it's just not going to happen that way. All right, well, it is 2 p.m. So I want to take the opportunity to just welcome all of you to a conversation with Dr. Nardia Aldridge. My name is Deborah. I'm from Hashtag DebTalk. And it's in essence an organization with a mission to encourage, educate working professionals, equip them to just understand their work, to successfully navigate the workplace, to discover and work from their strengths, and just to continuously grow. At this time, what Hashtag DebTalk has been doing this month for Women's History Month is that we've been honoring everyday women. Absolutely, we have to honor those who have gone before us and who have set the stage. We're in essence standing on their backs in the fact that we're in the positions that we are today. But we also want to take the time to not just celebrate them, but the everyday she heroes around us. I celebrated a couple of women, my mom, Navardi and Hunter, being the first woman that I've ever met and who's had the most impact on me, but we celebrated some other women, Asanya Tomlinson, Thelma Warner. And today we're going to be talking and celebrating and finding out more about a good friend of mine. Her name is Dr. Nardia Aldridge. Yay! Can you put some stuff in the chat? Put some stuff that says, hey, hi, great. I see some hearts in the Zoom room. Fabulous. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Nardia, even though this is so embarrassing to her, just having a whole focus on her, but she's just going to have to be embarrassed for a minute. Anyway, one of the most important things that you could probably know and that she would want you to know about her is the fact that her why is helping people achieve their dreams and goals. She has quite a few degrees. I won't go into all of them, but a few degrees as well as roles that she plays. She is an assistant professor in occupational therapy in the occupational therapy department at NSU. She's president and founder of the South Florida Black Occupational Therapy Caucus. She's heavily involved in Club Awesome. She has a Ph.D. in health sciences from Walden University, a BS in occupational therapy, MS in gerontology, and she also has about 9 to 10 years or so in the military.
Yes.
She's also a super mom and wife. She's like one of those serious scouts mom. Like she's at an event every other week with her kids and so on. So again, would you just help me welcome Dr. Nardia Aldridge? It's a pleasure to have you, Nardia.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so we're gonna dive into this and talk with you a little bit. So let's start off by asking you, when you think about Women's History Month, what does that mean to you?
Women's History Month, I think similar to Black History Month, it's a time for me, I think, of reflection. It's an opportunity to reflect on how far we have come as women, and then to add an extra piece to it as Black women as well, right? Just, the journey, what it has been for those who have come before us and the groundwork that they have laid. And then where are we going? Because we do know that, yes, we can think and reflect on women history and where we are, where we're going every day, but just having the month dedicated to it gives us that opportunity to pause, look
Yes.
at our cause, and just be thankful and know that the work is not done, right? I always say that the only thing that's constant other than God is change. And the more things change, the more things remain the same, which is why the work continues on, the journey continues on. So the opportunity to reflect on what has been done, where we're going as a people and as women, and then to think also about what contributions you can make in that change, because of course you always have to think about future generations, right?
Right.
What groundwork are you laying for them to be successful in that? And of course, the added bonus of being able to recognize and acknowledge those that have made that personal impact on us, whether it's someone personal in our life or it could be just someone in history. You know, we know all the stories in history. Well, not all, but we have heard them and we're still learning about some of them, but just knowing that history and being able to say thank you to those individuals. So be able to pause, reflect, think about the cause and say thank you. That's Women's History Month to me.
Right. You mentioned some really great things. There are two of them that I hope I'll remember to ask you about. You know, you talk about the fact that the work is not done. And I think that's really important, that whether a woman out there has a degree, whether they just have a high school diploma, whether you have a doctorate or not, the deal is that you can do some massive work just in your circle. As you continue to grow, as you continue to become your best self, you are making a positive impact. There are folks around you that they perhaps have never seen a woman do certain things, and you get to be a representation of that. So the work is not done. And I also just want to emphasize that you don't have to achieve a doctorate like Nardia has, which is fantastic because, like she said earlier, representation is so important. But just as you are in your everyday life, by choosing to grow and to become the very best version of yourself, you can make a difference where you are.
Yes.
With that said, you talked about just the fact that there are folks sometimes, well, many times there are women in our lives that have had a tremendous impact on us. And I'm sure that there are many in yours. Can you share one of the she heroes in your life?
Well, one is, I would definitely to say Berthina Pinckney. She passed a couple years ago, but I met her when I entered the workforce officially at the age of 19, other than the military, outside of the military, just in terms of the corporate world. I met her at the age of 19. And she is just such an extraordinary woman. She did not have a degree. And that was impressive to me as well, because she was the smartest woman I knew, the most intelligent and without a degree, but she had so much vibrance and she would just tell you the raw truth. She told you about everything about raising your children, and she didn't have children of her own, but she told you about, you know, things like that, what it means to be a Black woman in this country. How do you carry yourself? Even something simple as names. What name you give your children, because of course, as much as we want to be very cultural and, you know, go have our roots deeply embedded in who we are and our children, it does affect us in corporate America. And she would tell me, you know, in corporate America, if you have your child and you have this very African name, unfortunately, it shouldn't be the case, but their resume will get put to the side. They may never make it to the interview. And I thought about that for sure when I was naming my children. I had to make sure that they didn't sound, unfortunately, too Black in terms of a name, but those were some lessons she taught me, and just how to carry yourself in the workforce, that when you're there in the workplace and you're a Black woman, know that all eyes are on you. It doesn't matter how much experience you have or how much education you have, you are never going to be seen as an equal. So you have to be ready for certain things. So Berthina, thank God, God bless her. She was a tremendous player in my life. Right. And has been through it, even though she is no longer with us.
Right. So there's so much in that. I love the fact that this person pulled you aside and made the decision that they wanted to pour into you, that they wanted to, maybe that's not the word that we called it back then, but to mentor you in a sense. And that is so needed. The fact is, you don't have to know the world, but if you know two things more than I do, then you can share something with me. And I think that's so important for women in the workplace, that if you see someone that they look like they need that help and they're open to it, consider just pulling them aside, feeling them out, and having a few conversations with them. Don't assume that they have women in their lives who are in a place where they can do this. Yes. So that's really powerful. I love that. What would you consider to be one or two of your most important achievements?
Oh. Well, definitely, I just finished my PhD last year, so that's at the top of the list right now. May 2020, although we were in COVID, I think although of course we know that COVID and the pandemic is not a blessing, but it was a time that gave me the time to be home and to really focus on completing my degree. So I was able to complete my PhD in May of 2020. So that for me is a great accomplishment. And it's not just for me. I think it's my mom, nor dad, even grandparents, no one in that lineage had completed, I think, higher than a high school education. I know for sure my mom and dad was middle school. So being able to be the first in my immediate family, to go to college, get that bachelor's degree, get that master's degree, and then get the PhD. And when I started my PhD journey, it was more for my children. It was for them to see that it is possible as a Black person to get the highest degree that exists. And it doesn't only exist on TV or for famous people or rich people, you can do it as well. So I think that was the greatest thing, and just to be that example. And it helped me along the way, because those days when I felt like giving up, when I was there crying because this was so hard, and sometimes you just felt like you just wasn't making progress, or you're not going to achieve this because of what else was going around. Keeping my why in mind for my children, and then at a larger, not just my children, but the Black population in general, because others, like I said, representation matters. And for someone else to see you as a, Black, I'm going to say a young Black woman, even though some of my colleagues may laugh and say I'm no longer young, but yes, I'm going to say a young Black woman, that it's an inspiration. So I think that's important. So that was definitely the most recent and biggest accomplishment for me. And I think another one I would say, and for many people, they may not see it as a big thing, but my marriage. Because I grew up, my mom, my dad, they were not married, together in Jamaica. And the same thing for my husband. When we met, he didn't have, his mom and dad were not married either. And the marriages that did exist in my family were not good marriages. There was abuse going on in all shapes, form, and size in different ways. Abuse existed as well as, and if it wasn't so obvious, it's just not something you looked at and say, oh, I want that. So it was never at the top of my list, and it wasn't something I aspired for. But I remember when I finished my OT degree, I was just about to finish, and I told my boyfriend at the time, husband now, that, well, I'm going to be 25 soon. I want to have my first child by the time I'm 25. And of course, it doesn't matter if I'm married or not, but I'm going to get that. And he said, well, I'm not going to have you barefoot and pregnant, so we're going to get married. And then, of course, I expressed my concerns about marriage to him, that I don't know of any good examples, so it's not something I want. And he said, well, then we will be the example. We will be the change we want to see. So we will live the example. This way our children will want marriage, and those around us will see that it is possible. And Deborah, I will tell you, it is not perfect. It is not easy, but it is good. I do consider that I have a good marriage, and I'm very thankful to God all the time, because I remember even when I prayed about dating, I was not of the desire to date many people. I just wanted one person, to date. And I prayed about that. I said, I just wanted to send me someone in my life that I could just focus on that, because I have so many other things I was focusing on my life, career-wise, going to college and the military. I did not want to have all those other distractions that came with dating different people. So unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to date many different individuals, but it was a benefit, and I have been blessed. So those would be my top two accomplishments that I would highlight.
So much there. that it's important for what what resonated with me was your why. That there are goals and there are things that as women we want to accomplish, but if the reason behind us accomplishing those things, if the reasons aren't strong, then it's hard to push through when the tough times come, which they undoubtedly will. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that you had your children and you wanted them to see an example of a person of color going all the way when it comes down to educational achievement. And certainly there are other types of achievement, but this was one that you wanted to exemplify, and that why kept you going. And the other thing that you said that I thought was so important is what your husband said, which is that there are times where we don't see certain examples of things in our lives, whether that be a successful marriage, whether that be folks who are educated or whatever the deal is. And it's simple. Sometimes you don't see it. And if you don't see it, you need to become it. You need to create it. We need to create it for other people that are looking for it and can't see it. So I think both of those are really impactful things.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
I want to shift a little bit and talk about your military background. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and then I'm going to invite one of my friends, Marie, who was also someone in the military, to talk a little bit with us. So you were, okay, so I know military people get a little intense when civilian people mix up which particular branch they were a part of. So which particular branch of the service were you in?
Army.
Army. Okay, good. So I don't get it twisted and mix you up. Navy and Air Force. And okay. What would you say is a highlight? What was the highlight for you? A memorable story or highlight of that experience?
Well, I would have to say the highlight was definitely meeting my husband because that's where I met him.
Okay, awesome.
I met him in the Army. So of course that was a big highlight. But I think the greatest thing about the military for me was, I mean, there are so many, it's hard to say, but I definitely the exposure to so many different cultures and race. The military have just everybody. And, you know, coming from being Jamaican and then coming from New York, being a New Yorker, I'm thinking, okay, I've seen it all, I've heard it all. You have not seen it all or heard it all until you join the military. So that's where you'll see that. But it has been, I think, one of the best experiences of my life. And I think a lot of it was the benefits that you got out of it, you know, in terms of the leadership that comes with it, the instant growth and maturation that you get when you go for a job interview. And you mentioned that you have served in the military. I'm going to say, back on with it's almost automatic that you're going to get the job, because they know they're getting someone who's a team player. They know they're getting someone who's dependable and reliable. That's someone that's going to get the job done. That's great at execution. You know, you have a mission, you have something in mind, a vision, it's going to get executed. So I think, though, you know, that you're responsible, you're accountable, you're going to show up on time and you're going to stick to a schedule. So I think all those were pluses for me, because all the job interviews I've gone, and it has always been something that I've been able to fall back and to get that respect. And of course, not only, you know, the thank you for your service, but I think you're a great candidate. So I would say all in all, that's what it would be. So if you were to ever ask me for a word of advice for young people, would be, if you don't know what you're doing with your life, if you're not going to college, if you're not working, join the military. And yes, I'm not going to say one versus the other right now, unless it's a one-to-one, but I would definitely say join a branch of the service, commit to that 3 to 4 year contract, and you will be a brand new person. And if it's not a brand new person, then you will definitely discover who you are and what you want to do within those 4 years, and come out a better version, I would say, of yourself.
I think the military folks should probably snippet this part of our talk and use it as advertisement. I want to bring Marie into the conversation. If you go ahead and unmute Marie, and maybe we can spotlight her.
Yes.
I met Marie recently in a powerful group that we were part of, and learned that she was also a part of the military, and which particular branch, so that I don't get quarreled with by people. Which particular branch of the military were you a part of, Marie?
Uh, hello. I was in the Air Force, but my family still think of serving the Army because everything military is Army. So
typically with Caribbean people, don't even try to get them to differentiate. If you were in one of those, whatever, you're in the Army.
Yeah, right? And everybody think because you're in the military, you shoot a gun. No, that don't work that way. I mean, you have to learn how to do certain things. Certain skills are basic, as Dr. Aldridge would say, but there are different occupational, what do you call AFSCs? Different jobs.
Different jobs.
Yeah.
So Dr. Aldridge talked about some of the just great benefits that she saw as just being in the military as a woman. What would you say are some of the benefits for you when it comes on to the Air Force?
Well, I can also attribute to the diversity. I got to meet a lot of people I probably wouldn't have met anyway, and the travel. I did get to travel quite a bit, but as a woman specifically, things were you got experience according to your rank, not according to your gender. And so to me, that was a good thing. There were so many, the training I got in the military. Let me just say, I wasn't familiar with the term that's good enough is for government work. And when I first heard that someone talking about the military say, yeah, that's good enough for government work, I was offended because the military has very strict standards of excellence. Dr. Aldridge would probably say that. That's one of our core values, excellence in all we do. And I was offended by that. I found that the military has very high standards. And it elevated you to where, as Dr. Aldridge has just said, the civilian folks want ex-military, paramilitary, because they understand the discipline that goes into military life and the excellence that comes from that.
Okay, listen, this is advertisement right here for the military. Thank you both for sharing that. Now, we talked about a lot of the positive things in terms of your experience there. So I would want to find out what did you find challenging as a woman being in the military? And I'm not quite finished with you yet, Miss Marie, so just stay tuned. So Dr. Aldridge, what did you find challenging being a woman? And also you were in the military in the 90s, 2000s as a woman of color, being in the US, also of Caribbean descent. What was that experience like for you?
Well, as I mentioned, you have that cultural shock going in and seeing the different people. And I love that Marie mentioned that you didn't have to worry about your gender or race so much in terms of the promotions, because it was based on, you did the work, you're in this for this amount of time in terms of the years in service, as well as the year you're in terms of how much time you've spent in a certain rank. So that part was automatic. However, your role when you're the sergeant or you're leading and I joined the military when I was 17 years old. So you're 17 years old,
wow.
So you're young, you're Black, and you're female, and you're here trying to tell me what to do and stuff. So of course, there were certain things where you would have some people who are difficult, I would say, that pushed you, and but I think because the Army has so many rules and the structure, that you had your way in which to deal with it, whether it's making them do push-ups all day, or then they have certain duties, or they're written up. So there was a formality in dealing with that. But of course, that emotional part, it's still there because this person highly offended me. And I remember even going through training, boot camp, basic training, and finding out that there are people in the United States who have never come face to face with a Black person before. I remember people wanting to touch my skin to see what a Black person feels like, because the only time they've ever seen a Black person was on TV. And I'm thinking, what? This is the United States. This is 1995. This is 1996. What in the world is going on? So that was a shock for me and quite an experience. And then, so imagine now that they have never had that experience of being around a Black person. So you're constantly being asked questions, but that interaction. So you had some people who were open and willing to just dive right in and learn about you, your culture, and, you know, what do we do and work as a team. But then you had others that were giving you the side eye. I remember overhearing a conversation about a group of young men talking about, they were from the Klan, and part of the military is that you're signing that you're not affiliated with any, you know, groups such as those. But they were talking about how many Black babies they had to kill when they go back home to get a certain recognition within their group.
Wow.
And I overheard that conversation.
Shocking.
So now I had to take that information and go report it, you know. And that was hard for me, because now I'm going to know that they're going to know that I overheard and I'm the one that went to report it. But I was able to do that, and the right thing was done. They were removed. The military police came and they took them. And that, but to know that people think that way, to know that people are that way, and then to know, I know Marie mentioned, yes, you don't always have guns and so, but to know that if you're in a war situation, you're expecting this person to have your back. They're not going to have your back. They're going to kill you before the enemy kills you, that you're going out there to fight. So you have those aspects, and you don't want to think about that. As a soldier, you don't want to think that there's a possibility that the person who I'm expecting to have my six doesn't, you know? So I think those are things that would be concerned for me. But I think the structure that the military sets up for you to be able to navigate some of that makes it a little bit easier. It doesn't mean racism doesn't exist in the military. It doesn't mean sexism, and you hear all the stories that goes out there, and, you know, different things just out in this, as we have in the civilian world, you know, with rape and different things. So it does happen, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that the military experience was one of the best experiences of my life. And even when it was a negative situation, such as overhearing those conversations and stuff, it helped to build me, because it opened my eyes, right? To know that there are a lot of different things out there and people think differently. So you have to be aware of who you are around and who they are, and, you know, and your expectations. So I think those things help. So my takeaway is, no matter what the situation is, look at what you're gaining from the experience.
Right. Thank you for that. Wow. Some of that stuff that you just said blew my mind. But wow. With that, Miss Marie, one last question. What would you say also was one of the biggest challenges that you faced as a woman in the military? You can take yourself off mute, Miss Marie.
Yeah. I'm not sure if she stepped away.
Not there? All right. So then what we'll do is,
she's
there you are.
I'm trying. Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying it, it wasn't working. I'm sorry. You asked one of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, what was like one challenge quickly that you faced as a woman in the military? I know that you and Dr. Aldridge talked a lot about the benefits of being in the military as a woman, but for you being in the Air Force, what was quickly just one challenge?
I don't know if this, I'm sorry, I don't know if this would have been different if I was not in the Air Force, but what I found is that since I was in a male-dominated position, a role that's usually filled by a male, I was often identified or recognized as the assistant rather than the doctor. You know, I'm a dentist. So I remember, I'll tell you one little story. The dentist would wear a different color smock over their uniform. And so the assistants would have a different color and the doctors would have a color. And we had our names on them too. But one day I went in and I went to get my patient and seated him because I don't know where my assistant was. And after I introduced myself and gave the injection, he said to me, "Are they allowing assistants to give injections now?" And so I encountered that over and over again. It was only later on. I mean, I joined in 79, so it was a little earlier than Dr. Aldridge. So, you know, it took a little getting used to that. And after a while, I wasn't offended. I was just flattered that I thought I was that young.
So you found a way to just deal with it, but just continue to rise to the occasion. It's interesting because Dr. Aldridge had a similar experience when she got out of the military and started fully working as an occupational therapist. Why don't you tell us about that, Dr. Aldridge? Thank you, Miss Marie.
Sure.
Sure. Yes. So as I worked, well, there are tons of stories, but this specific one, particular one, is I was director of rehab, skilled nursing facility, and
I'm
I
sorry, could you say
have
that again? What rehab?
director of rehab,
Mhm.
director of rehab in a skilled nursing facility, and I have on my office door, it says Nardia Aldridge, director of rehab, and it's there. And I would have people come to my door, knock. Hello, are you Nardia Aldridge secretary? And there's no desk behind me. There's no additional rooms. It's just one office. So if I'm sitting there behind the desk, you would assume, or you would think it would just be, I am Nardia Aldridge, but I was asked, are you Nardia Aldridge
Yeah.
secretary? Because of
Yeah.
course, as a Black woman sitting there, I could not possibly be the director of rehab. And just as Marie said, sometimes I would ask, I would go along with it. Yes, I am. How can I help you today? And then I would let them talk, tell me whatever they want to tell me. And then I would say, okay, as Nardia Aldridge, the director of rehab, this is my response to your question.
Right.
And then there were other times when I would, just say, no, I am Nardia Aldridge. It just depends on what was going on that day, or how many of those situations I've had that day, or they would come, see my name on the door, look in the office, see me, and then walk back outside to the open clinic to my white counterpart to ask them if they are Nardia Aldridge.
Okay.
So those are the things. And people say, well, that is not microaggression. That is outright racism and discrimination. So, we talk about microaggression and implicit bias. There was nothing implicit about that. You were being very explicit as to whether or not you think a person of color should be in that position.
Right. Wow. I think what's great about what both you and Ms. Marie just shared is the fact that you both found the very best way that you could to handle that. And the fact is, women in the workplace face all kinds of things. You face it just simply being a woman. And then there are other elements that you face if you are a woman of color. Mm-hmm. But one way or the other, in general, as we've seen from history, women have faced some really tough situations in the workplace that they have to try and figure out the most strategic but authentic way of managing and navigating. And clearly, you both have found, to the best of your ability, successful ways of doing that. Now, with that said, you're segueing perfectly into the next thing I want to ask you. I want to ask you to just talk a little bit about a project that you're working on, and then following that, in the last few moments of our talk together, I want to just ask ask you as well as the other folks in our little Zoom room here, the top advice that they would give to women in the workplace. So you are currently working on a project with your students on how, let me see it here, on how well occupational therapy programs prepare students to cope with systemic racism in the classroom as well as the workplace. So I just want you to, in general, talk about, why is this project important to you? And, in essence, what has stood out to you, and the biggest piece of advice that you would give to your area, especially the folks in that area, which is occupational therapy. So
right.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So the research is not completed yet. We're still in the process. As a matter of fact, we had 2 focus groups this morning. But yes, so the occupational therapy profession is a female-dominated profession, but white females. We have 84% whites total in the profession, and the females make up 91%.
Right.
Of that population. So the number is very big, and Blacks are only 3% of the profession,
Wow.
So that is that is major, and that's why the research exists, and that's why we have to do it. Systemic racism, as you know, prior to this summer with the vicious murder of George Floyd, and of course Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, all of those individuals who have lost their lives. But of course, it was highlighted this summer, and then you heard the term systemic racism and everything. And I looked in our literature, and there was nothing in the occupational therapy literature about systemic racism. It has not been written, documented anywhere.
Right.
So of course, you know me and my motto, be the change you want to see. I go ahead and I decided, okay, for my research group, we are going to tackle this subject, and just to see, because in occupational therapy, we are very patient-centered, we're very client-centered, and everything is about the patient, but there's no stepping back to say, well, what if I am the Black therapist, which I've experienced, and a patient refused me because I'm Black? Because I've had a patient who tells me, you are not treating me because I don't want an N-word or whatever treated me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you handle with that situation? A student who have had no such experience, who walks into the clinic their first day and get that, how do you react? In that moment, do you start crying? Do you run out of the room?
Oh, my word.
What do you do? And no one has, and we have interviewed 21 students and practitioners total, and no one has had it in their curriculum where anyone has said, as a Black therapist, you're going to face certain things. No one has said that. They have said, if you had a patient of this race and this color, these are different. You need to be culturally aware. You need to, think about cultural competence. You need to do this, but no one tell you on the receiving end what to do. So it was important for me to say that not only that, the population that you're treating is very diverse. Therefore, the therapy itself, the therapists need to be very diverse, but we also need to have that cultural humility and to really think about it. And because we preach the message, but we're not practicing it for ourselves as therapists. So it was important for me to get that message out, and for students and new practitioners to know that they're not alone, and that there are some things out there that can be done. And that's what I'm hoping this research will do. But all in all, I'm looking for systemic change. I'm looking for us to bring this information to our national organization, the American Occupational Therapy Association, and our accrediting body to say, these are some recommendations for people who have lived this. This is their lived experiences. And these are some things that would make a difference in their educational journey and their journey as practitioners. What changes can we make in the curriculum? And that's my ultimate goal.
Yeah, this is certainly a very important piece of work that you're helping to spearhead. And I can't imagine what the experience is like for your students who are interviewing and hearing this. And I know your students vary, their backgrounds are different, and their ethnic backgrounds are different. And so I think the experience alone of being a part of the research is something that's going to be enriching to them, and they're going to benefit as a result of it. So fantastic. Congratulations, even though it's not finished yet. Congratulations on all the awards you're going to get, and all the awards your students are going to get, and your organization as a result of this important work. Well, if you are still with us or you're just joining us, I am pretty much almost to the end of interviewing Dr. Nardia Aldridge. I'm learning this thing. Just pray for me. Bear with me. I'm learning this thing as we go. I do know that there are a couple of folks in the chat. I do want to thank you for coming on. I see Dr. Severin Bryan, and she's even encouraging people to make sure that they like the video and share the video. I see Latoya on. DTM Direct Keen talking about just how beautiful this is, and just really great comments. Lorraine Campbell, we see you. Brown Mitchell, Lady Amanda Coleman, I like that name, Lady Deborah Pinnock. Hello, I love that. We want to thank all of you. If I missed your name, I'm sorry. Miss Tamara, I see you, and of course our folks here, we want to thank you for being a part of this conversation and just for supporting and coming on. With that said, let's just grab all our folks who are in the Zoom room right now. We're going to take them off camera, and we're just going to take the last couple of minutes here, because I'd love for, the truth is we all have something that we can share. And even for those who are on YouTube, this is what I'd love for you to do now. We'll have the folks who are in our Zoom room, go ahead and put your cameras on, put your cameras on. We're going to talk for a little bit. And if you're in the YouTube chat, what I want you to do right now is just put the best piece of advice you would give right now to a woman who is in the workplace. So right now in our room, I want to throw that question out to you. We can do it two ways, because do we have a man in the house?
Calvin.
Yay! Calvin is here. Okay, we have one man in the house. He's not lonely though. He's very secure.
I'm not sure if we have any males on our YouTube channel,
on our YouTube,
but we do have Calvin here.
All right. So here's what I want you to do. I'm gonna just ask each of you, you can answer one of two questions. What's the best advice you would give to a woman who is in the workplace? What particular quality or skill that you found that you possess that has really helped you successfully navigate the workplace? Because Hashtag DebTalk is really about equipping, educating, and building up professionals. That's what you're going to find when you watch any of my YouTube videos. That's what you're going to find if you ever choose to take a personal growth course that I teach that's called Reset 2021. So what's the biggest piece of advice, the best piece of advice that you could use right now to encourage and build up a woman in the workplace? I want to start with my friend, Edith Oliva from Argentina. Edith, go ahead and put your camera on and take yourself off mute. And then we're going to hop to Jamaica. And we're going to touch base with Miss Cloverleaf Parkinson and ask her for her advice as well. Just a way to build up women. What's the best advice you would give to a woman in the workplace in terms of just navigating it, or a quality that you have that has helped you? Hey, Edith, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for this question. I think for me, what works, what have been working is to be courteous. I tend to smile a lot, and I tend to be a lot, courteous and kind. Sometimes that could be interpreted in the wrong way, but in general, being courteous and a professional, knowing that, yes, you are kind, you smile, you are friendly.
Yes.
But also maintain a distance, maintain that professional demeanor.
Yes.
And that will help. I think that will stop things that maybe we don't want to get into, disrespect, or situations where maybe you're not taken seriously, or people making jokes that you don't want to hear. I think if you keep it kind, courteous, and professional, we can go a long way in the workplace.
Great advice. So that double weapon of being courteous, being pleasant, being warm, but also maintaining that professional distance. Great advice, Edith. How about you, Miss Cloverleaf? I know Cloverleaf is deep in the tropical island of Jamaica, but she just wanted to jump on. So what's the best piece of advice you would give to a woman in the workplace, either just a woman or just a quality that has helped you navigate the workplace well?
So, integrity is the first thing for me. One must at all times maintain their integrity. There are a couple of quotes that I look at sometimes to just keep me going. And, one of them says, a little progress each day adds up to big results. And as we navigate the workplace, we have to be mindful that we count those small victories. It's not just about the huge ones, but the small victories are important as well. And so we may not have the Broadway victory that gets broadcasted everywhere, but we'll have the small victories that have big impact. And, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for more so the impact rather than the publicity of the victory. And so that has helped me to navigate. And, all progress takes place outside of our comfort zone. So if we settle and allow ourselves to get comfortable and to not challenge ourselves, then we're not going to grow. So let's, get uncomfortable. And if the situation is uncomfortable, let us grow out of it and maintain our integrity at all times.
Cloverleaf has a tendency of always doing a bunch of mic drops. She just comes on and she just does a whole bunch of mic drops, but you're in great advice. Get out of your comfort zone and grow. Talking about being able to celebrate the small victories and ensuring that you are a person of integrity. And that, along with what Edith says, just solid. Calvin, you are the only man on this Zoom thing here. And if we have some folks in the chat, I want you to put your top advice. I want folks to be able to come and look in this chat and really benefit from our collective intelligence, as my friend Donna Mara calls it. You know, the folks here are not the only ones who have experience and who have things to share. How about you, Calvin? You know, is there any advice that you would share in terms of navigating the workplace that you think would be beneficial? And I know that you also have a daughter and a wife. Any thoughts? You can share things, whether it's about how you think women can, or just share a quality, skill, or something that you do that has served you.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure why my video is not coming on,
That's
but
okay.
it won't allow it. To be honest, you know, I think that the ladies have actually said some really important things and some really important qualities that is necessary to be in the workforce. And I've had the opportunity to work around some incredible women. And to be honest, the reason why I'm in the position that I'm in is because of the women that have actually encouraged me and have pushed me to even go a little bit further. So, you know, but if there's one thing I would always say from some of the things that I've noticed just being in the workforce is just to be confident in their abilities. You know, it doesn't matter what people think about you. You know, in the words of, I guess that was it, Les Brown, that says that, you know, other people's opinion of you does not have to become your reality.
None of your business.
Exactly. I do believe that sometimes, you know, we allow people's words cut us down and to limit us and our abilities. But if we are confident in the things that we have, the natural abilities that God has given us, the giftedness that He has given us, and to be able to develop that to the best of our abilities, that will speak volume in any arena that you go to.
Oh, wow.
So that would be my encouragement.
Oh, love that. Love that. Calvin is a product. I mean, obviously, there's so many people who've poured into him, but his current job, someone saw potential and encouraged them. And it happened to also be a woman. Miss Claudia, Miss Natania, we have I want to wrap us up in at least less than 5 minutes. This conversation.
We also have some feedback in the chat as well.
Yay!
That some people are giving advice in the chat as well. So
yes, wonderful, wonderful. Well, you know what? Can you take a moment right now, Dr. Aldridge, and just read one or two of those?
Sure. I'll go with Lady Amanda, since you love that name. Lady Amanda says, best type of advice I would strongly recommend is to stay prayed up. Keep positive and stay focused on your goals and think long-term, because a lot of people in the workplace are not really for you. Thank you, Lady Amanda.
Oh, listen, I tell you, there are folks who learn from instructions, and then there are folks who have to go by their own experience. And I'm encouraging you, take whatever wisdom you can from the people around you. If you don't have to walk through it all by yourself and have all the same bruises and scrapes as other people, then don't. So thank you for putting those, the advice that you're putting in the chat. We really appreciate it. All right, Claudia, Sonica, Natania, I'm going to give you an opportunity to share one quick piece of advice that you would give before we wrap it up.
Okay, so my advice, this is Claudia. My advice, my camera wasn't coming on either, is just stay true to yourself. Sometimes when we go into the workplace, we get lost. We adapt, or we take on other person's goals for our lives. But if we are true and we know what it is that we want for us, we should stay true to that, stick to it, and we'll be in a good position. That's my short version of my advice.
Yes. Oh, so much good stuff. How about you, Sonica and Natania? One piece of advice you would give to a woman in the workplace, or one thing that you've done that has served you well?
I'm sorry. Were you gonna go, Natania?
Go ahead, Sonica.
Okay. No, I would just say that just when you have your goal, just stay focused on that goal. Don't take your eyes off of your goal, off of what you there to do, what your accomplishment want. or start my video, sure. Just stay focused, and just keep your eye on the prize. So that's what I would say to any woman in the workplace, just to stay focused.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And Natanya, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I also say stay focused and not give up. I did the same thing. I tried going back to Geico so many times and I kept getting turned down. And I said, you know what? I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep applying. And I did. And the third time I did, lo and behold, they hired me, and even for more money now than I had started with before. So don't give up. Like Sonica say, stay focused and just keep your eye on the prize and long term, and know that what you're going for, and keep that mindset and keep going.
All right. Thank you all so much. And we have Marie in the chat says, as an introvert, I found that what I said was often overlooked and had to learn to speak up for myself. Toastmasters was a big help here. Fantastic. Oh, wow. I'm overwhelmed. First of all, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming out. For those who joined me in the chat room, oh goodness, joined me on this Zoom conversation. And for those joining online, I so appreciate you taking the time to come out and be a part of this conversation. My desire and my heart is that you are built up as a result of the time that we spent together, that you got some solid advice. I so appreciate Dr. Aldridge that we got a chance to get to know her some more and to get some solid advice from her about navigating the military, navigating the workplace, just learning more about her and the phenomenal woman that she is. Wow. All right. Well, listen, that is the end of our time. I appreciate you all taking the time to be here. Dr. Aldridge, did you have any closing statements that you want to make?
Oh, well, just thanks for the opportunity, because of course I would not do it otherwise unless, without your prodding. But I agree with Calvin's statement about confidence, because I think a lot of time in the workplace, depending on who you're around, it can really damage your confidence and self-esteem. And I think it's important for you, especially as a woman, to just go in there and be confident. First of all, there's a reason why you're there. God placed you in there for a reason, and no matter how long that season may be, and for a season, right? So go in there and know that, you know what, I belong here, and I'm going to make the best of the situation, and be confident in who you are and your role and your capabilities. You have skills and things that you can do. And if you're not sure about that, think about those people Dr. Severin mentioned in the chat, to get a mentor or to have people around you. Surround yourself with people who can positively impact your life, because they're going to give you feedback and tell you about those great qualities that you may not even know you have. Right. And when they tell you those things, embrace it and make it a part of you, because a lot of times people tell us things, or they congratulate you and say certain things, and you're like, oh, it's nothing, and you brush it off. No, take it, accept it. Look at those words that they use to describe you, write it down and have that, and keep those things as reminders to help to boost your confidence on those days when you go to a meeting and somebody make you feel like, okay, why are you here? Yes. Then you could go back to those things and, have that as that reinforcement and affirmations for your confidence.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, well, listen, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. Dr. Aldridge, thank you for going on this grand experiment with me. I'm trying to figure out, y'all, we spent so many hours trying to figure out how to go live on YouTube, and it's been so rewarding so far. I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Severin, who also was in the midst of trying to help me. I think she's in the chat. Dr. Severin, please feel free to leave a link in the chat. She is also an influencer who helps women when it comes on to managing their finances. And so I think she's definitely a good source of wisdom. And please feel free to like this particular video, to subscribe to Hashtag DebTalk. My purpose in creating this is really to ensure that I'm building up and equipping the professionals, because it's hard being in the workplace sometimes. It really is. And you've heard from various folks from all walks of life. You've heard from a language professional, folks in accounting, folks in the medical field, folks who have been veterans, and all the other professions represented by our folks in the chat. You've gotten advice. So take this advice to heart and thrive in the workplace. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that stuff that people usually say after their videos. I'm throwing it in there. But with that said, thank you so much for being a part of today's talk. Have a fantastic weekend and rest of the week. Until next time.
Take care. Bye. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah. I don't have any theme music. Bye.
Theme music.
I don't have any theme music to play.
Hi, Mama.
Hi, CJ.
Bye. Hi, CJ. Yeah, folks from New York, from Jamaica, and I'm just gonna throw Argentina, even though Edith is here. I just like it. I just like the diversity of it. But thank y'all for hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
Congratulations, Nardia and Deborah. Good thing. Good job.
And Deborah, when you're ready, you could just switch over on your YouTube and start the live streaming on that end.
All right, so yeah, that's how we're gonna do it.
We're trying to figure this stuff out here, Claudia.